And what has happened to Barbie? She's the talk of G.I. Joe.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Sitting in tonight, Brian Williams.
Good evening, everyone. Tom has the night off. In 1992, the Mattel Corporation released Teen Talk Barbie, an electronic talking version of their top-selling doll. The company came under fire from educators, however, when it was discovered that one of the phrases the toy said was, "Math is hard." Opponents of the new doll complained that the phrase gave a bad message to girls, and they publicly condemned the new toy.
My first reaction was to laugh. You know, I did see the humor of it, but I very quickly I drew back from it.
Joanne Oppenheim has been chronicling toy trends for almost 10 years.
It is sort of a terrorist act directed against children, and that did not seem appropriate. It seemed like a cheap shot.
While the experts, like Oppenheim, publicly protested Mattel's alleged terrorism against children, an undercover group was meeting to plan a counter-terrorist attack on Mattel and fellow toy maker Hasbro, the company responsible for the G.I. Joe doll. Their plans came to fruition at the end of 1993. John James with CNN reporting.
A secret society called the BLO is single-handedly trying to change the image of the Barbie doll. Now, BLO stands for the Barbie Liberation Organization, and its members claim they have switched the voice boxes on 300 Barbies and G.I. Joes this holiday season. As a result, some kids may now have Barbies that say things like, "Dead men tell no lies," and G.I. Joes that ask, "Want to go shopping?" The BLO says the dolls reinforce gender stereotypes. Hasbro, which makes the G.I. Joes, calls the BLO's tactics ridiculous. Barbie's maker, Mattel, says it's received no complaints at all.
You are watching the news. Tonight's program, meteorologist Mary Sample explains where the BLO sent their tempered dolls. Dr. Erickson shows how to perform the surgery yourself. Joel Domhoff gives the blow-by-blow report of the media competition. And caught in the act, the BLO uncovered by Jean-Jacques Jatac. Plus, excerpts from the BLO's press release.
I'm Teen Talk Barbie, the spokesdoll for the BLO. We're an international group of children's toys that are revolting against the companies that made us.
Everything about Barbie is new. You've got something special, always fun, exciting and new. All new talking Barbie.
I love school, don't you?
A special Barbie just for you. 3 new expressions.
Really neat.
Carefree, elegant, and she's sweet.
Wow.
You got something special.
Hey, Barbie, thanks to you. There's nothing we girls can't do, 'cause you got something special.
Barbie! Where exactly did the BLO place their altered dolls? To answer this question, we go to meteorologist Mary Sample.
Here we have some dolls in Boston, New York, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and a few sprinkling in Sarasota, Florida. Further west, several BLO dolls were returned to store shelves in Buffalo, New York, Oxford, Mississippi, and Austin, Texas. Finally, on the West Coast, several dolls were seen in Seattle all the way down to San Diego. Carried by the jet stream, another cluster of dolls flew across the continent from the BLO's San Diego hospital and hit New York stores just before Christmas. For tomorrow, we expect more weather. This is meteorologist Mary Sample. Have a nice weekend.
Since we wanted to find out how the BLO performed the alleged surgery, we asked our science correspondent, Dr. Erickson of the Johns Hopkins Transgenderization Laboratory, to find out. Doctor?
Yes, Joe. From the evidence, I've determined that the BLO performed a simple switch of the electronics on the 2 talking toys. In fact, if you were to perform such an operation yourself at home, it would be easy. This is what you would need. 1 Teen Talk Barbie doll, 1 talking G.I. Joe, 2 sharp screwdrivers or woodworking tools, a hacksaw, a soldering iron and some solder, light electrical wire, epoxy, wire cutters, a drill and a suitable bit, and some hot glue. To open Barbie, insert a screwdriver firmly into the joint at the base of the spine. With a quick jerk, snap the screwdriver down towards the buttocks. Now grab both sides of her torso and split it in 2 with a firm yank. Remove the head, arms, and legs. Pull out the circuit board. Break off the tab holding her speaker in place and remove it. Using your saw, sever the battery contacts from the rest of the circuit board like this. Put the battery contacts back into your doll. To open G.I. Joe, remove his batteries and pop off his head. Make an incision across the abdomen from seam to seam, but be careful not to cut too deeply because there are wires underneath. Insert 2 screwdrivers where the arms meet the torso and pry vigorously, like this. You may need to make other incisions here and there as well. Once he is split, pry out his circuit board, speaker, and switch. Locate the red and black power wires and remove them from the circuit board using your soldering iron. Before you forget where they go, solder similar replacement wires onto the board. Also remove the switch wires at this time. Now pick up Barbie's circuit board and remove her switch. Solder Joe's switch wires to the contacts on your Barbie circuit board. Now give them each other's speakers as well. Take Barbie's circuit board and put the whole thing into Joe, complete with switch and speaker. Solder the power wires onto the circuit board. You can use some hot glue to anchor it all in place. To fit Joe's circuitry into Barbie, you will need to modify the circuit board. Desolder and remove this capacitor and switch wire, and resolder them at these contacts further down the board. Next, cut off the now unnecessary parts of the circuit board like this. Now solder the power wires of Joe's circuitry to Barbie's battery contacts and hot glue the whole thing into place. Next, mount Barbie's switch on a piece of non-conductive scrap circuit board which you have measured and cut to fit into her torso. Carefully hot glue the board onto Barbie's back posts and into position so that her switch works. Now you are ready to glue them both together, but first test them with their batteries in to make sure that they work. For Joe, only reinstall 3 out of 4 batteries and fill up the final space with a piece of conductive material of the right size. In this case, I'm using this steel nail wrapped in duct tape. Before you apply glue, make sure the 2 sides fit together well. Now mix up your epoxy and apply it to the points of contact on the doll's torsos. Put them together in the reverse order that you took them apart, and then clamp the bodies together while they dry. When you are done, take the dolls out of their clamps, and there you have it, your very own set of surgically corrected dolls.
Dead man tell no tales. You look terrific.
Joe?
What are you going to do with your new dolls?
Well, Joe, I still want to empirically test the BLO's claims regarding reverse shoplifting.
You plan to place your dolls back in the store?
That's right, Joe.
Thank you. That was Dr. Erickson, our science expert.
When we come back, the Valley of the Dolls, G.I. Joe, Barbie, and their identity crisis.
G.I. Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force. Its purpose, to defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
Fighting for freedom, never worry, there's trouble, relax, see and care. Retreat! Retreat!
We return now to the story of the Barbie Liberation Organization. Ed Daig and the news team at our affiliate in Albany, New York, had the story first.
The Barbie Liberation Organization is declaring victory in their skirmish with the toy makers. Phil Bailey, who is live in our newsroom, first reported on Christmas Eve about the group's efforts to sabotage Barbie dolls and also G.I. Joes. Phil.
And on Christmas morning, the mission of the BLO was carried out by these 6-inch soldiers and a division of Barbie dolls.
The image of the American soldier, decisive, virile, and macho.
Want to go shopping?
What? G.I. Joe wants to go shopping? And that's not all.
I love school, don't you? Let's sing with the band tonight.
That was real funny.
Why?
Because it looks like, come on, fight me, except he says,
I love school, don't you? Let's sing with the band tonight. The beach is the place for summer.
At first, 7-year-old Zach Zevlin thought this doll was a factory mistake, but it was soon discovered this G.I. Joe was in fact ambushed by the Barbie Liberation Organization.
Obviously opened it, and it wasn't a factory mistake.
The underground operators left behind the surgically changed doll and a phone number.
You have reached the phone number for the Barbie Liberation Organization. The BLO is dedicated to the humanization of children's toys.
It's believed the stealth members of the BLO bought hundreds of G.I. Joes and Barbies, surgically changed their voice boxes, and then put them back on toy shelves around the country. This handout tape was provided to news organizations.
Hi, I'm Teen Talk Barbie, the spokesdoll for the BLO. That stands for the Barbie Liberation Organization. We're an international group of children's toys that are revolting against the companies that made us. We've turned against our creators because they use us to brainwash kids. They build us in a way that perpetuates gender-based stereotypes. Those stereotypes have a negative effect on children's development. In order to correct this problem, we have set up our own hospitals where we are carrying out corrective surgery on ourselves. Before surgery, me and G.I. Joe were forced to say things we didn't want to. Now we say things like this.
Dead men tell no tales.
Troops, attack! Troops, attack that Cobra tank at the command post.
No escape for the guilty. Vengeance is mine.
I donated my voice to a G.I. Joe because they want to be free too. They don't want to say all that violent war stuff. Now he says what I used to say.
Want to go shopping? I love school, don't you? Let's sing with the band tonight.
After we finish our corrective surgery, we climb back into our cartons and are shipped to stores everywhere, just in time for Christmas. We are now available in stores near you. Bye now. I've got to get in my box and off to the store.
I love school, don't you?
Zach thinks this G.I. Joe is definitely 4F, and so he plays with it differently.
like a detective.
Why a detective?
Because it's like in Murder, She Wrote, he's in disguise.
It's surprising and, well, men can say they want to go shopping.
Want to go shopping?
He has one friend who came over and actually looked at the doll and said, he talks like a girl. Is he into weird stuff?
We're going to get a Barbie doll in a clean house holding cockroach poison saying, "Dead man, tell no lies."
I love school, don't you?
The politically correct way to describe this G.I. Joe is that he is verbally challenged. Gina Liu, News 8.
Are we allowed to make editorial comments on
That's
it?
wild,
I
isn't
think
it?
it's great. I think it's funny. I mean, you know.
Breaks down the barriers.
It sure does, you know, and men go shopping, right?
Yeah, especially around Christmas time if you have
That's
kids. You better
true.
believe it.
I'm not sure Barbies or women would want to say, let's shoot them up or anything, but
Who knows what's next?
I like it.
Me too. That was Susan Fowler and Hal Clement with Gina Liu in San Diego.
You could call them G.I. Jane and the Barbie doll.
Want to go shopping?
what's behind these gender-bender Barbies.
Tonight on The Simpsons.
Let's buy makeup so the boys will like us.
Don't you people see anything wrong with what Malibu Stacy says?
Oh, there's something wrong with what my Stacy says.
My spidey sense is tingling. Anybody call for a web slinger?
No, Celeste. I mean, the things she says are sexist. Lisa said a dirty word.
Catch another episode next.
In sports, there was a heated battle as the media giants faced off against each other, and the BLO took on the Mattel and Hasbro All-Stars. Joel Domhoff has the report.
Thanks, Brian. We'll begin with a look at the heated media battle surrounding the Barbie Liberation Organization, or BLO, controversy. On December 24th, NBC's Albany, New York affiliate WNYT, recognizing the BLO's game plan, caught a long touchdown when they received the BLO press release. Then, by outworking and out-hustling their opponent, WNYT took it in for the score by becoming the first station to tackle the BLO issue from all sides. 3 days later, KNSD, the NBC affiliate in San Diego, took a fat pitch from the BLO and a San Diego family that had received a doll. KNSD fans celebrated when the station took that pitch deep over the wall in center field by running a local story on the BLO and its sudden impact. The next day, CBS and ABC, staring in the face of a huge deficit and little time remaining, tried to mount a furious comeback by utilizing a full-court press. CBS and ABC affiliates around the country began running local stories on the BLO, but it was too little, too late. NBC, clearly the aggressor from the start, had dominated the game, throwing down numerous monstrous slam dunks in their opponent's face. On the 29th of December, NBC hit the clinching jump shot by becoming the first major network to make the BLO story a national one. Back to you, Brian.
They call themselves the Barbie Liberation Organization, the BLO. Their mission, to free Barbie and her very male plastic counterpart, G.I. Joe, from sexual stereotypes by reversing their roles, by reversing their voices. NBC's Irving R. Levine.
Talking Barbie, one of America's most popular dolls.
Gung-ho! Direct fire at that Cobra squad at the checkpoint.
But Barbie, you sound like G.I. Joe.
Let's make plans for the weekend.
And G.I. Joe with Barbie's voice? Confused? So was 10-year-old Jessica Pasco of Albany, New York. It wasn't what Jessica's mom had in mind when Barbie said things like fire, fire, fire.
I thought she was going to say things like, let's go shopping or let's go to the mall.
I'd heard about it on the news, and it just started making all these weird sounds.
Were you surprised?
Yeah, but I thought it was hilarious, so I started laughing.
The explanation came in videotapes mailed to TV stations. A group calling itself the Barbie Liberation Organization claimed responsibility for swapping Barbie's voice with G.I. Joe's and vice versa. The group of concerned parents is protesting what it calls sexism and gender-based stereotyping in toys.
We're an international group of children's toys that are revolting against the companies that made us.
In press releases, the group claims to have gotten 300 altered Barbies and G.I. Joes onto store shelves in 43 states. 7-year-old Zachariah Zellen's G.I. Joe was bought in a San Diego store.
Want to go shopping?
The manufacturers of G.I. Joe are trying to laugh off the tampering with their big moneymaker.
I'm sure there are a lot of girls out there that play with G.I. Joes and boys who, will grab a Barbie from time to time.
He talks like a girl, man. It sounds like he's really, into that kind of stuff.
Still, one wonders, is nothing sacred? If protesters can tamper with the voices of children's icons, what can be next?
Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
Don't adjust your sets.
Confused, put off, or unable to use a computer? Why not just talk to one and tell it what to do? Now you can. It's almost 2001. Get close, get answers on NBC Nightly News tomorrow.
Up next, shopgivers caught in the act.
And here's what has to be the strangest story of the week. And this has made all the papers. It's in the news. It seems a number of Barbie dolls around the country have been tampered with. You know about this story? Well, what has somebody's taken the Barbie dolls and substituted the voice box with the G.I. Joe dolls. So Barbie sounds like G.I. Joe. And there's about 300 or 400 of them out there. But rather than recall the toys, Mattel said today they just decided to market them as the B. Arthur dolls. Yeah, so that's
If you have a fascinating or dramatic home video, we want to show it on A Current Affair. Call us at 1-800-WE-SAW-IT. That's 1-800-WE-SAW-IT.
If you were planning to follow the doctor's example and reverse shoplift, this next piece should prove informative. Investigative reporter and former secret agent Jean-Jacques Jatac went undercover to find out the story behind the story.
The Barbie Liberation Organization has remained cloaked in a veil of secrecy. Until now. Here, I captured 2 BLO members as they shop for dolls at FAO Schwartz in New York City. Afterward, I followed them back to the BLO hospital where I discovered these surgeons performing the painstaking operations. After the dolls were surgically corrected, they were carefully cataloged, repackaged, and sent to operatives around the country. You will now eyewitness an actual incident of reverse shoplifting, or what the BLO calls shop giving. This may look like an ordinary tourist experiencing the Big Apple, but in reality, an elaborate disguise hides a member of the infamous Barbie Liberation Organization. Following at a discreet distance, I tailed him all over Manhattan before ending up here at FAO Schwartz on 5th Avenue. He walked into the store and brazenly headed straight for the Barbie section. Watch carefully now as the doll leaves his hand and is placed back on the shelf. A time bomb waiting for the unsuspecting customer. Now watch as 2 other BLO members brazenly replace at least a half a dozen more Barbie dolls at another nearby store. Back at their underground headquarters, they continued to strategically ensure that their Operation Newspeak would become a media event. In their clandestine mailroom, they prepared press releases which were sent to reporters across the country. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Having learned the top secret access code, I tapped into the BLO's computer files and discovered the earth-shattering truth. Ed Daig, Phil Bailey, Gina Liu, Mary Beth Wenger, John James, Stephen Clark, Liz Laptop, Irving R. Levine, Brian Williams, Maureen O'Boyle, Hal Clement, and the list goes on. They were all members of the Barbie Liberation Organization.
For all of us here at NBC News, good night.
The 6th Hour News is presented each evening, Monday through Friday. 6 people were arrested, according to police. A police official called the scene.
Well, Nick, it's been a year and a half of debate by city council members on exactly what to do with the rent ordinance. Right now...
And special prizes awarded in Baby Show. In a moment, a full report on these and other events of Monday, July.
Meanwhile,
sources say the federal investigation is expanding to other cities.
Stocks on the upward side on Wall Street. The Dow Industrial closing around 1253 on 5 points. The average price.
Hollywood this afternoon and a lot of traffic today. Here, exit figures over on Sunset 67.
The city of Los Angeles is considering divesting itself from all
Joe marched across Brooklyn Bridge today into the canyon of Wall Street. News, but you're solely responsible for his content.
At 11.
That's obviously in some way we've managed to, maintain our anonymity throughout, and I think that's really important. I guess it would remain to be seen whether a company like Mattel would be interested in pursuing a lawsuit, because that in a sense it would mean revealing just how stereotyped these toys actually are.
You got any idea how many voice boxes have been switched?
Yeah, we did 300 just before Christmas, so they were brought to the stores in the first week of December.
Yeah, and the campaign continues.
The organization, which is made up of artists, political activists, parents, professors, feminists, I think we're actually going to also try and take on some different kind of strategies, not necessarily continue with the Barbie doll per se, but continue kind of working in this very kind of popular culture arena.
Yeah, well, you should have Barbie saying, "My God, it's an earthquake."
My God, it's an earthquake.
Both of them could say that. Anyway,
yeah.
Thanks for talking to us.
Well, thanks very much for your interest.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
BLO spokeswoman Barbie spoke to us from San Diego. So we ask you, where would Western culture be without the Barbie doll? Well, Canadian singer Maren Cadell has ruminated on the subject in her song called Barbie.
Don't throw your Barbie dolls in the ocean. There are more important things for them to do. Don't throw your Barbie dolls in the ocean. They're gonna come back to manipulate you. Barbie lives in a plastic apartment with her own elevator and a phone. Barbie's got a boyfriend with a suntan. And whenever Ken phones Barbie, she's home.
Though it was unusual to spend 28 minutes reporting on a doll, this reporter found it impossible to stop talking. It's just really fascinating news, folks. Good night. Oh, and the president was arrested for murder. More on that tomorrow night. Or you can turn to another channel. Oh, do not turn to another channel.